over time you'll be able to figure it out. But everything becomes so intense. For instance, if you had any kind of a problem that you were working on, and an average person might take 2 years to work through this particular issue, you work through it in 2 or 3 days, 2 or 3 hours. But you're taking 2 years worth and condensing it so it becomes very intense 2 or 3 days. And so what I find helps is if you have somebody who's been there already, been through it, that you can talk to let you know it's okay, it's going to be over quick, just to settle it down a bit, because it can get scary as hell.
Ken, yeah, no question. When I had this transformative experience, I really didn't have that person to talk to.
No.
I was kind of out there by myself. To me, this is to me what the League of Love is to be about. It's almost like what AA is to an alcoholic. The League of Love. Now, so far I haven't found too many people that want to really get involved. I mean, really throw themselves into it and create it, although it's coming. But to have a support group where you can go to someone and know you're not out there on your own, that's important. Because we are going through a transformative state in this world to the exact degree that we're choosing. And we can move that along at a quicker pace, or we can slow it down. That's our free will. That's what free will is all about. And what comes to mind, we just talked about this a second ago. Frequency. Everything, whether you're talking about that natural health, whether you're talking about herbs and foods, everything operates at a frequency, including all of us. We're all operating at frequencies. We all have the choice. What do you wish to experience, and how fast do you want to go? I mean, I know I've said many times in here, now is all there is, and you can collapse time. You can move outside of the dimensional steps that you would have to go through if you so choose. But know this, in every choice you make, there are consequences for your actions and your thoughts and your requests. And so if you choose to collapse time, then you've got a job to do. It's something that you have to put some time into. And you're going to experience a transformation within you. I'm sorry, I can't remember your name.
Richard Canard Pippy the Third.
Okay.
Call me Jerry for short.
Jerry, there you go. Jerry. No, it's kind of what Jerry was talking about with these transformations that we go through. Mary, who used to work with me on my first book, she was helping me edit. One of her favorite expression was, "You can't get there from here. You got to get closer first." And to me, there's some truth, and it's also ego's cop out. It's both. You do have to prepare, and at the same time, you have to realize that intention is paramount. Once you state your intention, now get clear on that, open, and let the universe supply the unfoldment.
Yeah, get out of its way.
Get out of its way. But know that intention is in your charge. This is all you really have control over. We don't have control over the details. I don't know who's going to walk through that door. I don't know what's going to happen when I walk through that door. But I know this. I have the God-given right that we all have to be clear about my intention. And if it's, I want more of this world, fine. Then you'll get more of the world. If it's, you want a transformative experience, you'll get that. You'll get whatever you call for. And you're going to get it to the exact degree that you're asking. with the exact amount of clarity. All these are very, very important points. Because if we're not clear about what we're asking for, you're still putting out, but you don't know what's going to
what you ask for, because
be
you might
careful.
get it.
Yeah.
One of those things when you're not clear.
And we have the possibility of becoming omnipresent.
Well, yeah, omnipresent. Exactly right, omnipresent. Now, omnipresent, to me, is 100% aware. We're aware. That's all. Buddha said, I'm awake. Right? Well, in order to be omnipresent, which, when Jesus said, I and the Father are one, da. What else could he be? What else could we be? If we're not one with God, then we don't exist. Because God is the summation of the whole and we're one with that. We may not be consciously cognizant of that one universal consciousness. Doesn't mean it's not there. It means we're not aware of it. We don't really know ourselves.
We forgot.
We forgot. We all are running around with degrees of amnesia, so to speak. And the more attachment we have to the human side, the less we know of our true spiritual. Because you can't be looking at two things simultaneously. You're focused on one or you're focused on the other. If you're focused on spirit, then the ego's kind of like put in the back burner. If you're focused on the ego, then the spirit's on the back burner, right? So ultimately, it's a question of what are you focused on? Where's your treasure? Finding your treasure. I mean, we've gone over this. It's kind of elementary, very, very elementary stuff. Most of it is elementary if you take the time to examine and reflect upon it. But most people don't take that time. We're busy. We're always too busy to caught up in our day-to-day to really truly see.
When you take the time to do that, what happens is all of a sudden you remember. And so it's just a reminder, because everyone's always awake. Created awake, and you are always awake. Difference is sometimes because of choices we forget we're awake. And so if you contemplate on what you're saying, all of a sudden it starts bringing it back. I knew that somehow, somewhere, sometime, and this is kind of reminding me of what I knew. So yeah, you have to spend some time and be re-reminded.
This is what I in my first book, It's All One Truth, I said, this is not, that's one you have. I said, this is nothing new. We all have it. We are just not living the consciousness that is our core. Yes, I didn't say it exactly like that, but I'm paraphrasing now. We're just not living that consciousness that we have within us because we're lost in a dream state. The more attachment you have to the form of this world, the less you'll be able to tune into and see the true reality. Can't see the forest for the trees. We're too hung up on this tree. You're not going to see this. Can't be done. So we have to only if we choose this path. I mean, you know, if you choose to remain, I'm going to say unaware. I don't want to use the word ignorant because it's you know, sounds a little bit, yeah. But if you wish to remain unaware, that's a God-given right that everyone has. And I say to anybody, if you choose that, stay. Do whatever you wish. But I'm here because I was asked to present this and remind you, and so reminding you is reminding me, which is why I say over and over again, the more I say these words, the more it becomes grounded in me. So thank you all for allowing me to share this with you.
You're welcome.
Because it helps me. Yeah, no question. I'm going to just go back over one chapter that we left off on page 62 last week. And in the middle, one must go, this is exactly what we're talking about here, one must go within oneself, connecting with the higher mind that is spirit. Otherwise, the mind that caused the confused state is the same mind that is trying to find the answers. In other words, the ego mind that's creating all of the confusion for us is the same mind that's seeking answers. You can't, as Einstein said, you can't correct the problem with the same mindset that created the problem. If you've got a limited view based upon an ego-perceptual mind, you will never see an omniscient view. You can't do it because you're always honed in on the small, minuscule piece that you have, or we have adopted as our belief. So one has to go. You can't hang on to both. If you don't go within yourself, then you will always see the same distorted view. The one that only appears to be real. It appears to be real. This one. I've heard many people say, yeah, well, this is the real world. Don't talk to me about this. Don't talk to me. This is real. See? I got stuff. I got a body. I can smell, I can taste, I can touch. This is real. But you know what? When you go within yourself and you have that transformative experience, you're going to find what you believed was real and what is real are two different things. Because, just as John was just indicating a second ago, God is omnipresent, and you're one with that. And that means that if we are experiencing limitations, those limitations are self-imposed. That's hard to believe. But we are limiting ourselves. God's not limiting. God didn't pick Gary and say, I'm making him special. God didn't make special. God doesn't have favorites. I remember one of my customers coming in here one night, real devout Christian. And he said to me, I'm blessed and favored. Wow. Your favorite, yeah. Well, I mean, but that's his belief system, and that's fine for him. But the truth is, God didn't make favorites. And God doesn't have favorites. God loves me just as much as he loves the rest, I think. Hopefully. No, that's true. Jesus was so certain of these words. I'm sorry. Jesus was so certain that there were many people who, try as they might, could hear all of his words and obtain nothing except confusion.
Bruce, I hate to interrupt. Are you going back over all this stuff again, or?
No. We
ended the first paragraph of page 65.
Did we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Oh, I had a different mark.
I thought you were just going over one paragraph, and then you started going on.
Well, maybe I'll go over to 65.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll tell you the truth. When I'm reading, I'm not even here. Truly, this means nothing. This means nothing to me when I'm, as far as I could throw it away and we could just talk about it. Which I really would feel. I feel more comfortable just talking about it than reading this.
What were you saying about your mother earlier?
Every 45 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But the truth is, no, I put marks in the book to help remind me of where we left off. But when I'm reading this, I'm only reading this, and I was reading it for the camera because I thought someday I'm going to put it into a DVD or something and send it off to people. So, because we're getting a little deeper than just reading the words, and I thought this way they would understand. But yeah, let's just jump ahead to where we left off. Why not? Let's go there. Yeah, I'd like to finish this book. Let's see. This was just prior to where we are picking up. I'm going to read that one paragraph because this is what Jesus said. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of the Father who is in heaven. On that day, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and cast out demons in your name and do mighty works in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you evildoers. This is vitally important, and I chose this passage here because there are many, many, many in this world who think that, as I was taught as a Christian, accept Jesus and you're automatically assured your salvation. Well, after having this transformative experience and seeing the ultimate truth, I could say that that belief is totally erroneous. And the reason being, now always is. Always. And each of us has a place in the now. Good evening. So in terms of the now moment, and also when you factor in eternity, I'm going to go back to what Einstein said about the past, the present, and the future. Past, present, and future are all one. And when we look at it from the eternal view. So, if in fact I step outside and I go to cross 41 and I step in front of a car, and this is my last moment, I am, as soon as that car hits me, before and while it hits me, I'm operating at a frequency. That frequency is my level of awareness. If I'm awake, I'm awake. And I'm going to experience relative to that level of consciousness. If I'm not awake, I'm going to put a little bit of a mini scale in here. Let's say I'm operating at this frequency down here, and I leave this body. Well, whether I'm in this body or out of this body, I'm operating at a frequency. If this frequency is down here, I'm sure not going to experience this just because I left the body. You don't instantaneously change your frequency because you are changing form. So this is what Jesus was talking about here. Jesus was saying, look, just because you call my name, that doesn't mean you're going to have an instantaneous transformation when you leave that body. You're going to be sadly mistaken if you believe that. That's what he was saying. Doesn't mean that you can't have a transformative experience if you've changed your frequency to here. Right? So we all have work to do, in other words. If we do our job, i.e. wake up, I mean, that's your only job. Wake up and recognize ultimate reality. Recognize God as being the whole, and God is universal love. That's your core essence. That's everyone else's core essence. So the only thing that's going to keep you from having that experience is hanging on to a limited belief in something that's going to hold you. Stuff.
And the
Judgments.
concept of there being something better in the hereafter kind of denies the eternal moment of now. There is no hereafter, so to speak, if you're all
No, there always is now.
encompassed in right here, right now.
We're living our eternity.
Yeah, absolutely. Rumi. I got a couple of CDs. I've never really read anything on Rumi, but I got a couple of CDs I like to listen to. Rumi had a lot of great insights. And one of the things that Rumi said is, you are tasting the taste of eternity this very moment, which is true. What else could you be tasting? You know, I mean, in terms of ultimate reality, he's talking now. And if you look at Jerry,
Right.
what Jerry was saying, you're already alive, you're already awake, you're just not recognizing it in this moment. This is one of the reasons why in I guess somewhere in the back of this book I talk about the fact, and also in the other book I said, all of creation as we perceive it, I didn't use those exact words, but all of creation as we perceive it is an illusion. It's not real. What is real is that which goes beyond our thoughts about what you're experiencing. Quantum mechanics is starting to get close to this when they start looking at photons, and they were examining photons, and they come to realize that the mere observation of a photon is affecting the properties of the photon, therefore you can't witness it in its purest state. So it goes right back to when I look at something and I run it through my filter, which is my mind, albeit a good one. No. No. When I run it through this filter, I've got a distorted view. Because my mind, unlike others, my mind is not omniscient. It's not aware of the totality of everything in this given moment, my human mind. However, I am one with that is omniscient. So it's available to me. It's available to all of us. All it requires is a shift in our positional thinking. Let go of what you think you know, and you open the door to what is. Now that's hard. That's a big stretch for some of us because we don't trust. I've been self-employed since I was 18. I've had 5 different businesses. I had to learn to trust my instincts. I had to learn to trust my mind. I had to handle details, because if I didn't handle the details, it doesn't get done, or it gets done improperly, or not the way I think it should be. And so we develop these traits within us to handle the details. But the mere fact that we are doing that is going to get in the way of seeing and experiencing the higher reality. That may sound crazy to some, but it's true. And Christ was really trying to bring us to that particular state where we are not looking and acting from a human perspective, but from the spiritual. When you are acting from the spiritual, you are doing the will of the Father. You're guided by Spirit. Some people say, well, I don't believe God has a will. Yeah. Well, God has a will. That will is that you wake up and you interact from that awakened state. That would be probably the easiest way of explaining what God's will is. The details, the details are, God, I have no idea. No one does. No one would.
Don't need them.
Don't need them.
Taken care of.
Because the moment you try to think that you know the detail, you're not going to be in tune to hear the proper detail. Because your mind's going to interact in this moment. You will say, Lord, I have prophesied in your name, and Jesus will say, He never knew you. How is this possible? Even when you have been doing the work of the Lord, Jesus would deny you? The truth is, Jesus is not the one who denies you. It is you who choose ego over higher self. Now, again, if we look at creation as it was created by God, an unconditionally loving Creator, where judgment does not come into play. It's not about measuring up and being good. It's not about being bad. It is about being perfect. We all are perfect in our core. We all are perfect spiritually created, I'm going to say, units of consciousness. That's what we are. Perfect. Including that one. No, not that one. No, everybody. Everybody's everybody's in there.
Now we asked him for a raise. They just told you you were perfect.
Yeah, he's been doing that a couple of years. I'm just now starting to get it.
And I tell you, ask and it will be given. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door will be open to you. Salvation comes only to those who seek it. Asking is only the beginning. Knocking opens the door. But the experience only comes to those who walk through the door. I remember years ago, had a small little group, and I had a little brochure that I put out. And it really wasn't too inviting to most people, because I remember putting something on there talking about free will. We all have free will, and I think most people believe in the concept of free will. But I also made a note on there, free will equals responsibility. You know what? People didn't want to hear that.
Now that just puts the pressure on.
So, you mean I got to be responsible? You know? I think this is one of the biggest obstacles that Christians are going to deal with, is that many of us have been led to believe that Jesus has taken away that responsibility that we all have for our own unfoldment and our own spiritual development. Because, again, you look at creation in the now, if you're not awake and you're not living spiritually aware now, then when does it happen?
Should get rid of all the old and make room for all the new.
Well, Jerry said something which is true. In terms of the now, we are already there. Now, this is a big stretch for a lot of people. We're already there. Jesus came along and he stated something when he said, no one goes up to heaven but he who's come down from heaven, including the Son of Man who is in heaven. That multidimensional aspect from the spiritual. What part of creation is caught up in linear time?
Human.
Human?
Ego belief.
Ego.
Ego belief?
Yeah, good answer.
Ego belief. I like ego belief. Ego belief. You know what's interesting about ego belief? We can change it. You can change your beliefs. I remember watching the movie The Matrix. Remember the movie The Matrix? To me, it was a great spiritual movie.
Most spiritual movie I ever saw.
I made the exact same statement. Most spiritual movie I ever seen.
Just change consciousness for computers, and that's what it is.
There you are. Absolutely right. In that ego belief, there was a scene where Morpheus and Neo were about ready to spar. And Morpheus was talking to Neo, and Morpheus said, some of the rules you can bend and some can be broken. But rules and our beliefs are vitally important to that which we experience. If you believe something and you hold on to that belief, in the now,
It is so.
it is real for you. It's a real limitation. You can't get beyond your belief. You can change your belief, but you can't get beyond it. No one can. We've all come here to work on letting go of our ego beliefs. And we do that through interactions. We got a beautiful creation to play in. And the universe, some people would call it, will supply you with the exact experience necessary to look at whatever belief you have a problem with. Whatever, if it takes a millennium, doesn't matter. Rest assured, the universe will always be there to support you and help you let that go. Might be painful sometimes.
No matter how many times you have to go through it.
No matter. I mean, you can go through it over and over. You know, it's like that the old record stuck, you know, in the groove, and it keeps going like over and over and over, and you keep hearing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. You ever notice some patterns repeat in your life? I had a couple. A couple of patterns repeated. And, you know, they'll repeat until they're not necessary. Because, again, these are vital points. We don't live in a system of reward and punishment. Everything that's happening to you, everything, is for your growth. Everything, bar none. Step outside and get on my motorcycle and have an accident. It's a gift. Don't understand it in that moment. Go to the doctor and I get diagnosed with cancer. It's a gift. Go to the same doctor next week and the cancer's gone. It's a gift. Whatever happens, doesn't matter. Everything is for our growth. And working on the mind, I think the first step, when we're going to talk about steps, the first step is to let go of the concept of reward and punishment. No one is being punished, and no one is being rewarded.
Cause and effect.
Cause and effect. So, karma, yeah.
I get all of this, no problem. But there are some modalities and whatnot. I mean, I think there are certain truths. And here, if your frequency is low, and you get to here, let's say you go when your frequency is midway, then apparently there's a certain level our soul, we continue to evolve, but there has to, how do I put this? For instance, in the Kabbalah, for example, you know, they say that there's the 125 corrections of the soul. So, you know, your soul ultimately expands. And granted, there is no good or bad, and there is no judgments. However, our soul continues to evolve. And where are we evolving to? And how do we get to the other levels, so to speak? I mean, we don't know how it works over there, but apparently everything that we experience here is for a reason and for a growth component.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No, I agree wholeheartedly.
So my question then becomes is, for those people, you know, when we're raising our frequencies as we go along in this lifetime, even once we open and we experience that connection and we're fully present in this now, we're still working on stuff, and there's still stuff that comes out that is going to continue for us to expand and evolve.
Until you get to a certain point.
Well, then you probably won't be coming back here.
Well, no, you wouldn't be. Exactly right. So this is where...
Wait. It's a choice.
Everything's a choice.
And
Everything,
some,
yeah.
even though they're completely evolved,
Okay.
they choose to come back.
Wait a minute. Okay. But
For their own reasons.
But what I was hearing about the development and the spiritual growth, and you wouldn't be coming back here to grow spiritually. What Jerry's now talking about is you may come back here, you may come back here and offer your services, but on a whole different level, but not for your spiritual growth.
Okay.
But okay, so yes, when you are evolving into this expanded, awakened state, there are degrees to that. Yes. Where are you going? Well, I'm focused here, and those that have been coming here and know me and hear what I'm saying over and over again, I'm not talking about evolving to the next stage. I'm not talking about making that next step. I'm focused more on just wake up. Wake up. Don't worry about growth. Because worrying about growth...
Because a wake-up involves everything that comes at you. You work through these things because you do have personal truth to your own...
Well, everyone does.
Right.
Everyone does. But that personal truth is the only obstacle that's going to stand in your way of your being.
Because it's your belief.
Because your belief. You have everyone has limiting beliefs, and they're all relative to their personal journey. Yes. Now, the moment you could let those go, you become awakened. You become awakened.
Right.
You
Not that part.
don't have to worry about waking up because you're already there. Now what needs to be done? Nothing. There is no more work to do. There is interaction now. I mean, you know, I'm not saying, oh, you woke up, now that's it, you don't exist. You do. But you exist on a whole different plane. You exist connected to Source.
Right, I understand that
Right?
part. Got that
Okay.
part.
Okay.
I've got that part, but even though you're existing and you're connected to Source, and life is wonderful, there's no doubt, life is wonderful. But every day, there's still stuff that comes up, and whether it's from the past or stuff that's going on in different dimensions, there's stuff, you know?
Mhm.
And so, you know, there is a constant growth going on. So
Well, there's a constant growth going on until it's not going on.
here, exactly.
Right here. No, what I'm saying is, you're in charge. You are in charge of when that growth is finished. In other words, it already exists. Your perfected state already exists.
Right.
The moment you embrace it, you're not having to work at it anymore. Right?
I can't describe it. I'll have
Well,
to think
no,
about it.
I understand what you're saying. Yes, when we're going through the struggle and we incrementally are dealing with things, yes, there appears to be a progression. But in ultimate reality, you can forgo the journey and be already at the end.
I got that part.
Okay?
But what she's saying is if you're totally awake, stuff still happens, stuff
There's
still
stuff
comes
that's
up.
Well,
There's
wait a minute.
things-
You have life
And
stuff.
what you talk about is interacting.
See, yeah, in my book I talk about the difference between reacting and interacting. Reacting would mean stuff comes up, stuff's going to happen. The
I know
world's
about
outside.
I get the
Right.
reacting part, and I
Okay.
get that now we look at this and we go, oh boy, you know, I got a real big issue to deal with. But we're still human, so we're still going to experience
See?
tiredness and rage.
Okay.
Or do you believe, or it's not a belief, but if we truly have this connection, we can change our beliefs. Here, we're still going to have things come to us. If we get a cancer in our body, can we stop our aging process? No, because didn't we as humans agree? So are we going to continue to age, or can we then decide we want to become ageless? So truly, if we don't age, we'll never age and we can live here forever.
Well, first of all, in order to be fully connected, you have to let go of your attachments to form.
Got that.
Okay, you got that?
Got that.
Well, then if you let go of your attachment to form, then aren't you already ageless?
Right, exactly. Just
In-
not in this physical form. You know,
Well, the point being this: we either see ourselves as spirit or ego personalities,
Right.
A or B. Now, if I see myself and I remember to see myself and everyone else as spirit, I don't have a job to do anymore. I'm done. Doesn't mean that, as Jerry said, we can be here and serve. Spirit says to me, hey Bruce, I want you to talk to Joe down the street here because Joe's got a question and you could help him. Okay, I'll talk to Joe. Now, I talk to Joe. Do I have an attachment to whether Joe hears me or don't hear me? Not one iota. Doesn't matter. Here, Joe, here's what I got to share with you. Fine. You want it? Take it. You don't want it? Fine. I cannot lose myself in any perceptions about this world and still maintain my spiritual awareness.
got that part.
Okay, good. Well,
No problem.
then here we are.
I think we've run into the vocabulary wall here.
We will, you know what, there are going to be issues where our belief system and the verbiage we use are going to get in the way at some point. But little by little, I think we can let go of our erroneous beliefs, and when we do, what's left over is the perfected state, which has always been, always will be, and the only thing that gets in the way of any one of us having this experience, yes,
Is our thoughts.
is our thoughts, our own thoughts.
Got that.
Einstein said, I want to know how God thinks the rest of details. We all have a problem when we view it with a human mind. We all have a problem with details. We got to work out the details. I got to know this. I got to know that. If you have to know, Rumi also said this, talking about the third eye. He said, the eye goes blind when it only wants to see why. It's that deal with the photon again. You can be one with the moment, you're there. Go back and analyze it, you're no longer there. Paul said, I die on a daily basis. That's what he was referring to. Awake, asleep, awake, asleep, awake, asleep. Now, we can play this game for as long as we want to play it. But ultimately, no one is in charge of us waking up but us. It happens when we choose.
I think what she's addressing also is the fact that it appears in this reality that we are born as a physical being with a physical mind that's powered by a spirit of some sort. Now this generates a duality, that there is a physical mind and a spiritual mind. And that physical mind is the one that that you're trying to explain to us is the one that is the dreaming mind. It's not awake. But for someone who hasn't been shown that there's a spiritual side, this is very, very real.
Oh, no question.
You get to the speed of light and you'll be dispatched as quick as EMC squared no matter what you think about the spiritual world. There's just no getting around that. So there is a very real reality, a physical reality, regardless of the spiritual realm that you're talking about. Otherwise, what did God create?
And this is one of the reasons why later on we're going to be talking about the anatomy of the soul and the different parts of self. And I talked in my book, I talked about the fact that we have an ego, or a human personality. Well, the ego is taking on a human personality.
The ego is a form of consciousness.
It's a form of consciousness.
Without ego, we cannot exist in this three-dimensional.
Okay, but there is also a part of self. Well, let me say that, no, I disagree. We can
I
still...
know you disagree.
We can exist here.
We can't.
Well, you said...
Ego is what keeps us in this three-dimensional... The problem with ego is we give ego the jobs to do that was never designed to do. That's where we get into a problem. Ego in its pure form is part of consciousness, and it's designed to keep us focused in three-dimensional physical reality, period. That's all it's supposed to do. We fuck with it.
Now, with the spirit, when you are connected to the spirit, and spirit is guiding your actions, you don't have to worry about being in the third dimension. You will be here or not be here. It will be orchestrated without your thinking about it. The ego, yes, the ego can orchestrate movements here, and the ego will orchestrate movements here. But there is another part of self.
You allow it.
There is another part.
Power.
You give it the power. Well, the ego has taken over, and it's basically a collection of programs. That's what the ego is. The ego is a reactive tool that's going to analyze
this stuff to take over.
Oh, absolutely. Who's the you that gave
The
it?
ego doesn't do it on its own. It's not its job. But you give it to it.
Who's the you that's giving the ego?
Excuse me?
Who's the you that's giving the ego the power?
Your beliefs.
Your beliefs.
Yeah.
So you are your beliefs?
You create these beliefs. And
Who's the you that's creating the belief?
You.
Who's the you?
I am not understanding your question.
I believe it's a personality. I think that we're like crystals or diamonds, that our soul is multifaceted, and there are you could look at the facets of different personalities of our soul. That's what it is. So this personality comes in to this particular personality is me here, and there are multiple personalities because there's multiple facets, and whether or not you label it ego, we're all talking about the same thing, Jerry. Whether you call it ego or you call it personality, or that's a name. That's our own belief or thought.
Well, you might be. I'm not. Ego is part of consciousness. It's a particular part of consciousness. So I'm not creating that with personality. It's part of creation.
I would think that the you that you're asking the question is you, the spirit, you, the peace of God, the consciousness. If you're not awake to that, then you're giving up that power of consciousness, and you're letting your ego run things. And so
the core essence of self would be that you that I'm referring to. And I referred in the book to that you as the I am of the soul. The I am of the soul, yes, the ego has had a free reign and has a free reign of most people in this world. Because most people are not awake enough to take the reins, so to speak, and stop the process of this thinking mind. This thinking mind, the human mind, is a reactive tool. We look at things, we analyze things. I mean, we're trained, the human body is trained to give a value to every single moment and everything in this world. You give it a value. Then you place it somewhere in this wherever, and you recall it. Song comes on the radio. A memory comes up.
I don't like it.
I don't like it. I like it. Or something smells. You have a reaction to that. Now that reaction comes from a memory. It's not coming from a super consciousness that is totally aware from the omniscient view. It's coming from a memory. And those memories are programs that you're stored away. And the ego uses every one of those to give a value to each moment. Now, the spiritual essence of self, the I am, is not limited to that. The spiritual essence is connected to a much, much greater consciousness than just this dimension. And we all have access to it. We haven't practiced. Most people haven't practiced quieting the mind to connect to that part of self, which is the true essence.
That's why you have to meditate.
Meditation is key. This is why it says in the Bible, be still and know that I am God. In the stillness, detaching from all of the outward world opens the door. Looking at the outward world, placing your value upon it, will keep the dream alive. That's true of all of us. And most people have been brought up to, and we all pretty much believe that on this dimension there's evolution. And so because there's evolution for us to see and witness, my body's getting older a little bit. But as we look in a mirror, oh, I'm getting older. I'm subject to evolution. Linear time gets reinforced over and over and over and over again to the point where that's what we accept as being true and valid. This is one of the reasons why I used to go to a Course in Miracles group, and what they used to all say in unison was, in the end, we're all going to get it. What end? There is no end. There can't be an end. But
Enjoy the journey.
enjoy the journey and realize that for you don't have to be subject to the progression. You can transcend that progression right now. How many believe that they could actually transcend progression and wake up? Wow.
At this moment?
Well, wait a minute. See, now, if you believe that you can transcend the progression, then the moment is irrelevant. Right?
How many people are awake?
How many people are awake? You know what? I have no idea. I don't even want to venture a guess. But I got to say this. In terms of ultimate reality, we're only responsible. Each of us is only responsible for self.
Right.
Right? If I remain awake, I'm doing my part, I'm doing my job, and I don't have to worry about what the world does. If you remain awake, you're doing your part, you don't have to worry. One of the things that most Christians don't understand is when they adopt the consciousness of Christ, which is what Jesus really came to teach, they become the Christ.
Well, we can just take that right to God.
Right to
That's
God.
what we are. It's
Exactly.
God consciousness.
Well, when I say the Christ, that's what,
Right.
to me, that's what it is. It's not about, the religion. It's about,
Right.
it's about the realization of God within self and all else.
Right.
That, to me, is what Christ really is about. Not what the religions have kind of interpreted and twisted it and presented it. But you become, because what else can you be? If you're awake, you are consciously cognizant of God, and you're expressing that to the world. There is no more than that.
Now, how do I know that all these concepts are a fundamental truth and not just an illusion based on the programming that's coming out of my head or your head?
Well, let me say this. You are experientially experiencing this moment of eternity. You can agree with that? Okay.
Don't know when it happens.
When you have
You got that right.
You'll know it when it happens.
When it happens.
Yeah, exactly.
There is no question.
Exactly.
No question. No.
If you-
I only get the, if you want to call it the experiential awareness of the unity in a meditative state when I'm really been going hard at it. It doesn't happen in that little 20-minute meditation or well, I think I'm going to do some meditation this afternoon. It's got to be a conscious preparation kind of thing, get into the state and
The more you do
allowing the focus to just come upon you, and then I can sense that the unity is there. But as long as my eyes are open and I'm walking around and I'm dealing with traffic and having to sort numbers and make shapes, then that awareness is only a subconscious thing that's kind of behind.
you can consciously, I think the more you do it, you'll get better at it.
And don't
if you,
put the pressure on yourself.
yeah, but
to-
if you're
to
open to it
find
and realize
stuff.
that you can do that, because I can sit and I can connect with myself and I can have a conversation with you, but if I'm going to do intricate work where my brain has to focus on, a business problem or something else, then I can't necessarily maintain that because, but I think that's our object, is to be able to maintain and feel that. But if you go for a walk, if you can shut the chatter off, and even if not, if you take and you are present, and it takes work to be present in the moment. But believe me, your mind really doesn't stop, but you can have conversation. That's when I have all my best conversations with God. But you'll feel the difference. You'll feel that. You can feel that with your eyes.
If you're looking for results, you won't find it.
Scott, you say you meditate, right? And you feel as though in that meditative state you connect and you see and experience. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this is what I heard. In that meditative state, you see and experience a different reality for that moment.
And I should qualify this. I used to meditate. I haven't
Okay.
meditated in a number of years now.
Okay.
But when I would meditate, I guess the best way I could say it is that I became aware of a oneness.
Okay, good.
And that,
Did you believe it
yeah,
in that moment?
Yeah.
Okay, good. You still believe it?
yeah.
Okay, good. So you believe the oneness, but you're not experiencing it on a day-to-day, moment by moment.
Not when my eyes are open.
Okay, not when your eyes are open. Okay. Now, Gandhi
No,
said...
and I should qualify that because I know that is there,
Right.
so I no longer question any form of duality.
Okay. Okay. Gandhi
I know.
said you must be the change you would wish to see. Okay? So, given that you recognize there's a oneness, when you were meditating, would you say that you had 1 minute or 10 minutes of being awake?
Couldn't say.
Couldn't say. Second?
I mean, I could look at the clock before I closed my eyes and look at the clock after I opened them,
Okay.
and I couldn't say how long that moment in there.
Yeah.
Did it seem as though the intervals grew at all?
No, there was no
Okay. Okay, there was no
sense
time, no sense of time.
interval or time
Okay.
or anything.
Back to the past, the present, and the future. do you believe, as Einstein was referring to linear time, it's an optical delusion of consciousness?
Very much so.
Okay, that's good. I believe that too. That's great. So if you believe that's an optical delusion of consciousness, then linear time is not real as we understand it, or as we would perceive it, right?
Right.
Good. So that means that what you accept in your meditation, what you experience in that meditation, with practice, you can carry into your walking state. When you do that, you will recognize what Christ meant when Christ was trying to bring people to that level, when he said, what you do for the least of my brothers, you're doing for me. There's a one universal oneness. Right? Just stay with that thought. Play with it. Walk and talk in the world from that conscious state, and be aware there's a universal oneness. Regardless of what the outward world is reflecting back to you, hang on to that truth.
That I do.
Well, with practice, what happens is that becomes more and more grounded in you, and now you don't have these memory lapses where we buy back into linear time. Because ultimately what we are all doing here is practicing remembering. We're practicing remembering the true self. And that true self exists beyond the limits of time and space. If you believe in time and space, and you believe in linear time, that belief will be validated for you experientially. And you'll continue to keep it alive. Change the belief, you're no longer keeping it alive for you. Somebody else may keep it alive for them. Don't worry about them. Don't worry about the world. This is one of the reasons why Jesus said this. He said, look, he first came in and he said, talking about his followers, and he said, you guys are of the world, I'm not. Right? At the end of his ministry, he said, Father, I pray for those you've given me. They're no longer of the world. He didn't stop there. I don't pray for the world. You see? He says, because they're no longer of the world. They are, Scott, they are awake and aware of the oneness, the universal oneness, and they are living outside of the belief in linear time. He wasn't saying, I pray that the whole world is transformed, because the people that were here hanging on to the belief are keeping it alive and it's perfect. There's a perfection in everything that happens in this dimension. But you don't have to be limited by it. That's what Jesus was talking about there. I mean, Christ talked some very, very elevated truths. Very elevated truths. And if Christianity woke up to the true picture of what Christ was teaching, my God, this world would be, I don't know, we wouldn't even be able to stay here anymore. The frequency would be instantaneously transformed into something else.
And we don't want to be human. We no longer need it.
That we would need the human experience. We're only having human experiences because there is a need for the human experience. Well, except for the ones that come here to share. And there aren't that many. Trust me, there are not that many that come here that are already enlightened that come to share. There are some. I'm not going to say there aren't any here. There are. But the majority of the people in this world are not awake. The majority of people still believe in linear time, and that belief is going to keep it alive. This dimension will last as long as people hang on to those beliefs. Change the beliefs, you change the reality of your experience. If the whole world followed you, this dimension would disappear. Wouldn't be necessary. Anyway, I don't know how we got too far into
So
that.
it's always about the individual. It's never about the group.
It's always about the individual. You know, we are all only responsible for self.
I don't
But-
believe that. I think sometimes it's about spreading the joy, because I had a resident that I was away for 5 weeks and he was purchasing a home. And my manager said, well, he's purchasing a home for somebody else. I said, I think not. And I went upstairs and I meditated. And last night we took him out for dinner. And we reclaimed it.
Well,
Because sometimes if you don't, I didn't do it to make money for myself, although ultimately I will. I did it because I wanted to share the joy of what I know about flipping houses. I want to spread good news and how you can make your life easier. So it's not always about yourself.
well, you know, self is, when we talk about self, when I look at myself is the self. The spiritual self is the whole. When Jerry was talking about we're responsible, and when I talk about we're responsible for ourselves, I'm talking about taking responsibility to do what Scott was talking about and interact in the world from the awakened state. When we're doing that, the universe will handle the details of sharing with others and providing every single soul on the face of the planet exactly what they are needing and calling for on their journey. And so, yes, it seems as though when we start talking about self, we're not talking about the personality self, which would be selfish. You know, we're talking about the spiritual self, which is inclusive. There's a huge difference. Because if I start talking about, well, there's only 2 of these, and there's 4 of us, so I got to take them both, so you know I got enough. Otherwise, it's not going to be enough. Well, that kind of self, that's not the self we're talking about. We're not talking about the personality selves that would be selfish, but the spiritual self would be inclusive of the whole, and when spiritual guidance comes into play, there'll be perfection. And it could be that exactly you'll have the exact experience you were talking about. What I'm talking about is this. I cannot be spiritually connected and honoring the spiritual self fully when I'm thinking about what to do. But state my intention and listen.
I was say, listen to what.
Listen, and the guidance will come. Everything will unfold. Everything will just miraculously fall into place the way it should. And I know this to be true because I've stood in my way many times.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again.
I've done that too, huh?
Oh.
God, that's the easy part. I want to know how to
You got
get
that
out
right.
of my way all the time. Just,